A couple months back, Splash Paints launched their Kandy line. Most paint companies have a Kandy line for their paint brands because candy coats are very popular. And Splash Paints is a great paint brand in all honesty. Mostly known for automotive paints, but they branched off into the model kit market and really have shake things up in my opinion and have brought a level of quality. Before Splash Paints, it was real hard to find a good 2K clear that you didn't have to import, which was such a pain in the ass, so thank God for that. But anyway, I decided to pick up some of this paint. I bought all of them in the line because why not? And I decided to work on something someone sent me about 2 years ago or so. Time is real hard to gauge. It was one of those Gundam bears. I don't know what the hell you call them. I call them Gundam bears. It's not the line name, but if you Google search it, you'll find it. And I figured this would be a perfect excuse to use the Splash Paints candy coats because I don't really paint candies at all or often. But I do like the way they look, so I figured, why not? Something I don't care too much about the bear. I could easily candy coat without any level of guilt or thinking, this looks a little too much. This is bougie. So anyway, with typical Splash Paints, they're already pre-thinned and everything. And I would highly recommend, using a good airbrush with these and having a delicate hand. If you just hammer on the paint, it's gonna go like water, really. Splash Paints I find to be perfectly mixed for a 0.18 needle. That is like probably one of the smallest needles you can get. You use those sort of airbrushes for detail work. So that would be like a custom micron Iwata airbrush for reference. Or the Pickcon version, which is half the price. But still, you're plunking down like $300 for that airbrush. Basically, it's the usual. Hit it off with the black. Then a Kandy, I believe, if I recall correctly. The Kandy silver base. I did some test shots over like black with the silver base. I'm not quite sure if you need to do this. Now, I know Alcalad has a silver base that you could just throw directly on plastic. It doesn't matter. You don't have to prime it or nothing. It's ready to go on a plastic, but the trade-off is an 8-hour drying period. That's mandatory. Whereas to a Splash Paints, it's still lacquer based, so it might take not as long, but still, some people have low patience. I also decided to test it on a matte black, and we're now doing a glossy black just to see what would happen because I was curious. And the exact thing happened that I figured would happen. The silver base isn't really heavily affected by a glossy black or just a flat black, really, So you could probably put this on a black primer rather than a glossy black, so on and so forth. Since I had already, kind of painted everything with black primer, which isn't usually my go-to for everything, I figured I would do the sort of black backing paint job that's fairly popular, and it's also the Matte Watanabe style. You might find this to be the style best known for by Saintism, I believe. He's pretty much perfected it, in my personal opinion. Now we're doing the teal color because teal is a nice color to look at. I guess I like teal. I like light colors, probably because my life is so dark. I would say you need to do a couple coats of this, in all honesty, if you really want to get the desired level of color you're seeking. It's pretty par for the course when it comes to candies. You just can't get it all in one go. It's like a build up. And also keep in mind, the more layers you add, the darker the color becomes. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Once again, just don't hammer it on. But do what you want. You'll figure it out later. That's life. You learn more from mistakes than not making any, in my personal opinion. Unfortunately, I shot this video months ago in one half, so you missed me clear coating. Oh well. Finally, I decided to buff the clear coat, which, with rounded edges. You get more of a glossy clear with rounded edges than you do with flat, straight edges. That's kind of why people spray on spoons for some reason. It just really looks good on a spoon rather than it would look on a stick. But anyway, I decided to use something else, which technically I wasn't really reviewing, but since I'm using the stuff anyway, let's talk about it. It's the MadWorks, buff set and, little buffing tools. In all honesty, I do like the buffing tools. They're a lot better than most of the cotton balls you get for Dremels to sort of buff stuff out. I find some of the cotton balls that I've gotten a hold of are just too damn rough. You know, it really ruins the finish. Whereas to with these MadWorks ones, which you don't see very well because I didn't remember to look at where my autofocus is pointing. So you see a lot of my hand. I hope you like it. But anyway, the buffing tools, easy to use. They don't seem abrasive or rough, even the hardest one, which is the black one. And I'm just going about buffing. I haven't really buffed anything on this small a scale. So to me, it's kind of weird. It's a new experience. You might be wondering, what the hell am I using? You have two choices basically for buffing these little suckers. A Dremel or a dentist rotary set. I would recommend the dentist rotary set, but the Dremel covers far more bases than the dentist rotary set. But with the dentist rotary set, you have more control over the RPMs. Like, it's a much smoother glide of power rather than just like turning it on and it's already up to 5 RPMs or something. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, we're splitting hairs here. Yeah, it's me buffing the little bear guy. You know what? Frankly, you don't need to see this. This isn't interesting to me. You know, look, watch me buff this thing's legs. Look at me rub it down. With all the love and attention of Geppetto, except it won't come to life, and there's no hot fairy godmother telling me what a great man I am. But overall, you know what? I have to say the MadWorks buffing stuff, not bad. I can't remember the price. I'm going to guess that, you know, the liquid stuff is probably $20 and the buffing set's probably $20. So at least 40. You got to remember I bought most of this stuff months ago. So I no longer remember the price of anything, which doesn't help you in the least. But hey, you got the power of Google. Listen, when I was a kid, I had to go to the library. You can at least type in Google, buff set Gundam was talking about. Even though I kind of screwed this up. The bear isn't perfect. It's not. Well, let's go for some glory shots of this little guy. What do you say? And when it's all said and done, you know, the little sucker's nice to look at. I was going to make him a special base for the hell of it. I still might do it. I don't know. Depends on my mood when I wake up tomorrow. I got a couple things to do. But if I want to do something more creative than sitting and staring at a screen and editing, there's a good shot I'll be back in that room creating some sort of like miniature grassy knoll for a bear that is painted teal, as if I was on some sort of public access show. But yeah. Oh, the paints. Let's put an end to this, okay? I've wasted your life force. I would say that the splash paints, candy coats, are not bad in the least. I like splash paints a lot. I am more inclined to use splash paints candy colors than I am to use Alcalad. So maybe that might mean something to you, maybe not. The only issue I have with splash paints' candy line is it's new, so this could probably be changed later. They're great people over there. They treat me like a human being, so that means something to me. The long and the short of it is, I would recommend these paints if you want to do candy coats. Pre-thin, easy to work with. Well, you need to really have control over your airbrushing skill, you know. Real control over your finger. Other than that, yes, enjoyable, likable. I probably should have used a 2K clear on this, but really, I didn't feel like mixing it for this bear. You know, even at the smallest amount I could mix it to, I would still be using too much just for this bear. Coat it 5 times over. And that would be a waste of 2K clear to me. But, you know, whatever. And the MadWorks polishing set, I don't know why I didn't put the buff tools there. I'm an ass hat. Recommend those too. I like them. Not bad. I'll have to like do some more tests with them versus Tamiya. And maybe McGuire stuff. I've been using McGuire stuff for polishing basically automotive parts for years. And I would say you would need McGuire for 2K clears. That's directly from splash paints themselves. They told me that. So I'm not just talking out of my ass. But that's a whole other story, and nobody's got time for that. May the force be with you. I really don't have a great go. We'll go with the classic one. Adios, bichachos. The worst call to action and sign off in human history.